So, right before someone hires a real estate agent, they ask one question: what can I actually afford?
Right before a couple hires a wedding planner, they ask, "Where does our budget go?"
So, today when I say we, I mean Jesse, is building the tools to answer those questions. Free for the visitor, but it costs a name and their email.
Yeah, that's a lead magnet that works while you sleep. So think about this as we do it. What questions are your potential customers asking?
This is the Shift AI show presented by Aweber. If you can imagine it, you can build it with Aweber.
Not so subtle hint. Go invite a friend.
You built that in the landing page builder, right?
I did
That's
build on the landing page builder, even the
I
Zoom, everything.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and the only thing that I didn't, I layered music because I had existing music that I didn't even think about trying to layer. But even that, like on click, it explodes and zooms into the logo was in the builder.
Man, that's so rad. I knew you made that page when I saw it here. Because I was looking at landing pages people were making, and I
Yeah,
saw that. I
you're
was
like,
like,
oh, I know the
"What's
shift.
going on with this?" Yeah.
Wait, so you spied and saw the stinger before it went live
I
this
did, but I
way
didn't realize it was for the
without
stinger. That
realizing?
was cool. That was really cool.
Well, I'm excited to be back. Thank you so much to Alicia for co-hosting last week.
Oh,
Those
she
were really
did
fun
great.
episodes. I thought it was so much fun. So to everybody who was hoping to see Alicia and Chris today, I apologize. Here I am. I'm back, but I'm excited to be back here. And I like this is like a pretty, I think in a good way, like a really simple demo today. We're gonna be back in the Aweber AI page builder. Just because I think it's such a freaking functional tool for what we're trying to do. You could also be using Lovable or
Mhm.
Replit or some other ones. But honestly, like not even like no unintended bias, but like it's just so much simpler in this. I tested the same results in a few of them and I really liked what I got here. Because we're talking about lead generation and it's already connected to your list. So like it just takes this like massive connection step out of it. But it's going to be a really simple, fun one. And I hope really applicable. So I've got two examples for two different personas that we're going to talk about today um, for building these like interactive lead magnets. But I hope that we like kind of spitball, come up with some new ones and maybe try some other ones along the way as well for other personas if people have ideas or if you do, Chris.
Cool.
Um, but this came out of a couple of things. First of all, longtime viewer Erica, shout out, sent a note through the website, um, just showcasing a few different real world client interactive lead magnets that she's been building with the page builder.
What? I
Um,
didn't see this.
yeah, I'll share it with you. It's in the submissions, but I um I promised not to share it on the show because she didn't have explicit permission from those clients. But some really cool. It's really cool to see, and I'll find a better way on Friday maybe of like kind of showing similar types of builds that Eric has been making. But really cool to see somebody going from like learning on here on the shift what is possible, and then just taking those ideas um, and just extending them way beyond like even what we've talked about. And I know Matt is another viewer that's done similar. Um, so it got me thinking about, what else can we do to create interactive lead magnets for people? And there's Erica. Hey, how you doing? But I was also on vacation, as everybody knows, last week, or missing, whatever it was, and I was on vacation with one of my oldest friends and his family and my family, and he's a realtor, and we were talking about the shift because I was watching it from the beach, and we were talking about the page builder, and he's like, well, what could I do with that? Like how, like I would love, so much of his business is word of mouth, but he would love to begin building kind of a prospect audience, a new lead audience and things like that. And so one of the first things we talked about was like, well, what questions do people come to you with? And he said like almost every conversation for a new buyer starts with like, all right, what's your budget? you know and usually their response is, I don't know, what's my budget? Like how much house can I afford based on these things? So that's the first thing we're going to do today. So I'm going to jump right in over here. We're going to build through like a wildly simple prompt a landing page that includes a calculator for real estate agents, prospective buyers, to calculate how much house they can afford. It's the beginning point of any home search for a realtor, is knowing what your client can afford, or your client knowing what they can afford. So again, I'm here in Aweber, in the AI page builder, and I'm going to give it this like pretty straightforward prompt. It basically says, create a landing page for Maple Grove Realty with a home affordability calculator. Visitor enters annual household income, monthly debt payments, and down payment savings. Let them adjust inputs freely, but ask her first name and email before revealing the personalized result. I really like this piece of it because it's like, it's so simple to build. And prior to this, like these kinds of builders and the Aweber page builder, like these kinds of logic were really cumbersome to build. But it's essentially going to expose the calculator, let them use it and do their inputs and their toggles, but then it's going to gate the result. And it's going to capture an email. So they're already kind of invested there. You know, like we've all entered stuff in things like this. You're like, well, man, fine. Here's my email. I want to know, you know, like, and now they're in your audience and you can begin to nurture them. So it's really cool that it's going to gate it there. And this is not one of those, okay, now, you know, like, sign in or do this like they put their name and email and boom, they're going to get the result right there. So it's still instant delivery, but you're making sure that you're growing your audience. All right, so let's kick that off. And it says, yeah, after sign up, show their estimated price range and monthly payment with a short note that pre-approval confirms the exact number and a button to book a free buyer consult. So it's gonna give them that additional step. A, you know, this is not a hard offer. This is an estimator. And B, let's talk. Let's start a conversation. Now, what I didn't tell it in here, and I think would be an obvious, like, great step, would be to give it a unique tag once they've entered their name and email, because then you can deliver, you know, personalized content automatically by email. I think what would be an even cooler step, and maybe if we have some time, we'll iterate and tweak it. But it would be cool too if it stored their price range as like a custom field, because that automatic email that gets kicked off that like welcomes them and gives them that opportunity to connect with you could reference the exact price range that they were given. So it'll be interesting.
So
we can do that.
The thing that I'm most interested in with this stuff is, like, when you're thinking about building a calculator, how much of the guts of it, the actual math, do you generally want to provide? Like, because this was a very light prompt.
Yeah.
You know?
And it was one of the things I was going to say, and it's a little clearer in the second one. That's for like the wedding planner, because it's a little bit more complex output. Yeah, if I'm doing this for real, I'm probably going to give it a little bit more direct guidance in terms of, or some kind of data source that's publicly available, to say, hey, if you have this much down payment saved, this much income, this much debt, this is what you should expect to spend in terms of total home value, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Got it.
I would probably, in this case, it's referencing what it can find, but yeah, I would probably want to be more explicit. What did Eric have to say? An app that has digital checklists for women depending on your life/financial situation. They give their info and then they can select what checklist they need. That's awesome.
That is really cool. So the checklists, were those things that you already kind of had a version of, or did you start them all from scratch? And I guess same question to you, Erica, is like, how detailed were you in crafting those checklists? If you used AI to craft them, like, did you give explicit guidance on what the checklist items should be? Did you just share a goal with the tool you were using and let the tool kind of build out the checklist for you? This is part of it that I'm so interested in, because, like, we've talked about this before, as it gets easier to make things, lots more people are going to make things, and our challenge is going to be less about making something and more about making something that stands out.
That's useful. That's different.
Yes. Yeah. So, like, what are you doing, Jesse, on your end, Erica, on your end? What are you doing to make sure that the thing that you made is not just something Claude could have made by itself, or the Aweber builder could have made by itself? That thing.
There you go. And Erica says she had the checklist for this one. I love that. So
Awesome.
it's based on proprietary content.
Awesome.
All right. So well,
That's
we're almost
cool.
done. Sorry. So while that's still going, I'm going to kick off another one here. Let me just jump back into the builder, and now I'm giving it a prompt for a wedding planner landing page for Willow Lane weddings with a wedding budget calculator. They enter their total budget, their guest count, and it picks they pick their top priority. So whether that's the venue or the food or the photography or the music, and then it's going to same thing. It's going to gate the result, and then show a line item budget breakdown that shifts based on their top priority, where they want to spend most of their budget. So we'll let that one get going. And all right, so here we go. This was not based on any specific brand. So again, you could be more explicit about like the colors, the style, giving it a screenshot or a reference website to make sure that it's on brand. I left that pretty loose in this case. But let's see here. So it tells me, okay, the calculator is actually down below. I'm not sure I love that. I'd probably change that. I'm not really sure. I wasn't sure what to do with this result here. And I'll show you another version of this that I actually ran previously as well. But all right, let's try the calculator. Let's say annual household income of 130, monthly debt of $925, and $30,000 saved up. And there you go. It's gated behind it. Personalized range 383. So interesting. I would probably change the UI. Yeah, the UI is a little weird. Let me show you this other one that I built yesterday. Feels like a little bit better layout, kind of positions the business and what this is a little bit better. And I actually like this layout.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's gorgeous, man.
And this was with the exact same prompt. So again, it just goes to like the more specific you are, the better, more consistently you're going to get a better result. You might get lucky and get this layout. You might not. So again, probably would be a little more explicit with my prompt. And then the landing page has a little bit more about it and stuff like that. But in this case, we could do the same thing. And I actually like how it has this kind of like blurred out as though it's like it already knows the answer, but hasn't revealed it yet. And again, when I reveal, now this one, it shows it right there in that panel. That's a great experience. I love that one. Yeah. Any thoughts on this?
That's,
I mean, to me,
gorgeous.
It's immediate value, low friction.
Right? Yeah, it's funny. Like the one thing I would say is like, if you scroll up a little bit, I think what I would probably do here, if I were like taking a design pass at this now, is I would update the hero so the image was gone, the subheading was gone, and the rest of the content in the hero was centered. So it was just like the headline value proposition, and then bam, and that beautiful little
see that panel, like 2/3 of it sticking up here into the hero or above the fold. Absolutely.
Yeah, because like design wise, that panel looks gorgeous, you know?
Remove the hero image. Center hero headline, remove subhead, and move the calculator panel into the above the fold view. All right, let's see what that does. Absolutely agree. And it's funny because I think we've talked about this on the show before. I know I've talked about it in other workshops and things like that. But there's in marketing, advertising, there's the 40-40-20 rule, where like the success of your campaign, in this case, your campaign would be sending traffic to this page and getting them to convert to a name and email sign up, right? That's your campaign. Its success is 40% dependent on your list or your audience. So like, are we sending the right people? Yeah. It is 40% dependent on your offer. Is your offer compelling? and
Yeah.
it's only 20% dependent on your creative. And your creative includes imagery, includes the copy that you're writing. And we're both designers and visual people. I hate to admit that like the visuals are the least important part of the
Yeah.
success of my campaign.
But least important doesn't mean unimportant.
Doesn't
you
mean
know?
unimportant, but if we're
Yeah.
sitting here evaluating like what has to go, often that taking up 50% of your hero with just like kind of a placeholder image that doesn't really serve any value or inform anything, it's probably the first thing that needs to go. So I probably needed to be a little bit more explicit. I'm not sure that I love the formatting here.
It was perfect for a second, and then it
shifted, right?
Yeah. It's funny. I like the way that you talk to the builders, because like my response would have been like, why the heck did you squish the hero content like that?
This looks terrible. What are you doing?
Man, I say this looks terrible all the time.
Oh, I do too. I really do
different
too.
builders.
There you go. You got it. It fixed it pretty fast though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. I love that. I mean,
and then on larger screens, it's not stacked, right? It's still split.
No, I think it's split like this.
Yeah, because that looks so good.
That's great. And right there, the action that we want them to interact with is already visible. And we talk about that on some of our landing page workshops. Like you want that action that they're taking immediately visible on viewport. Because I hate to admit it, but like 30% of the people that land on your page are never scrolling beyond the viewport.
Yeah.
So if they already don't know what they're doing, like you've already lost 30% of your potential signups. Awesome. I love that. So pretty simple. Like this is publish ready in my view, in terms of like a lead magnet. I would be ready to use this. Like we said, you have a specific brand and colors and things like that. I would make sure to apply that, but pretty neat, interactive.
Just one last question on this one. Did you give for this variation, did you give it colors, or did it just come up with this from the name, the like Maple Grove? Because it looks, everything about this page is.
And what's interesting too is it actually chose similar, not identical, but similar. It may also be retaining it because it's from the same account.
I would want to read the chain of thought, but I'll bet you it's just intuiting it from the name.
Probably. The fact that it's maple, it's probably going, okay, we're going to go with like earth tones and greens, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty sweet. All right, on to weddings. Let's see what it gave us here. All right, some formatting I would want to fix. That's all right. Yep. But nice, soft, elegant wedding feel.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Now, again, we just talked about best practices. I'd do the same thing. I want that calculator immediately visible on load. So I would reconfigure and shift some of that. But let's try this one out. My wedding budget is $35,000. I'm going to have 150 guests, and I care the most. Oh, I want some more options. Music's not on here. That's all right. I'll say that I care the most about the food. People remember a bad meal.
I have never had a wedding, but $35,000 on them, and I'm sure that's not a ton. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Probably, compared to today's standards, is probably cost effective. I hate to say it, but yeah, my skin crawls at the thought. My children are 7 and 11, so hopefully I don't have to think about that for a very long time. All right, I'm going to say the venue and the setting is my most important. I choose reveal. Again, it wants my name and info. So again, I love that the interactivity is exposed, but the result is gated. Look at that. This one I thought was pretty cool. And this is where I'd probably, if I'm an actual wedding planner, I'm sure I have a lot of these breakdowns of the reference materials. I would want to give it like really explicit information because it's a pretty insane breakdown. It's like 36% of my budget, which is my priority, is going to venue and rentals. 24% or $8,349 going to catering and bar. Pretty cool. Like, I don't know. I think pretty practical breakdown, especially if you're giving explicit data to base it on. If I'm the engaged who's planning this, like this is a useful takeaway for me. I thought of Matt, one of our viewers, who's been doing some really incredible interactive lead magnets for his business. And one of the things he did that you talked about this on one of the episodes, but like was just such a cool, like I hadn't thought of that. He knew his customers so well that he knew that they would want to be able to print the output. Like this is such a great example of like, I would make this, I would iterate on the prompt and say, make sure that the output downloadable as a print friendly F or something, so that they could take this and walk away with it and go, okay, I understand like kind of the range that I should be staying in when I'm looking for music, when I'm looking at flowers, when I'm looking at anything. So again, I think pretty cool thing. And you could take this further. And I think what's part of the beauty of this being built in our builder and it being connected to your email list is like you could have some of these outputs submitted as like custom fields with the name and email, so that in your Aweber record, you can email them and you're not just personalizing by saying, hi, Jesse, thanks for using the calculator. But like, you may be like, hi, Jesse, based on your house range of 250,000 to 350,000, I think I've got some great ideas, you know, about what we, you know, where we can start looking for you. Here's my number, or here, book a call, whatever.
Yeah, and also like when you're thinking about mechanics of this, there's a case in which you would not want to show the results on the page, or maybe not show the full results on the page.
Sure.
Maybe show a teaser of like, hey, here's the top level. If you want more details, I've emailed it to you.
Yeah.
Where you email them, again, using custom fields and tags like Jesse's mentioning, you email them the lead magnet. And that's really beneficial when you're thinking about building your reputation, is because the more people that you can get to interact with the mail that you send them. So somebody who has just asked for a calculation on their budget, for you to come up with their budget for their wedding, they're going to be pretty motivated to open that budget if you send it to them. So like the more people you can get to open that, the better that is for the reputation that an inbox might build about you, because the inbox providers like Gmail and Outlook, they're all trying to make sure that their customers, their users, only get the mail that they want. And so like the more people engage with the mail you send them, the better the signal you're sending to Gmail or whoever that the person actually wanted your email. So you can get really smart when you build the pages that you're building inside of the same place that you use to send email, to not only grow your list, but also grow your reputation.
Yeah, anything to encourage that engagement. Think about that in the real estate example. Let's say you also had them in addition to name and email, you had them share the area that they're looking, right? They want to buy in Havertown, and now you know their range. What if that email, based on that dynamic content, shared 3 or 4 listings that you had available that you're aware of that meet those criteria? And so on the page, maybe you say, hey, here's your estimated range. Check your email. I've actually sent you 3 or 4 potential homes that may be a fit, and reach out. We can schedule a viewing. No, that's not what they call it.
Awake, I believe, is what they call it. Wait, do they call it a viewing or a showing or
showing? Thank you. I knew viewing was just wrong. Sorry. But like, yeah, but just think about that. Like, think about how much of that process you've now instantly gone to potential customer is ready to go see a house with you. All right. So those are 2 examples. Obviously, I'm pretty confident that our entire viewing audience does not fit into wedding planner or real estate agent. What's another persona, whether it's, I don't know, like a fitness coach or an e-commerce brand? Like, what's something that somebody else, like, what's one that we could just
personality quizzes are a good one. So, and like oftentimes you think about associating them with only with people who are providing like coaching services. So people who want to get better at managing their workload, or who want to grow in their career. But you could really use these quizzes in really fun ways for things. So my wife's an interior designer, and a quiz would be a really fun way to get useful information about their project, their goals, their style. So if you built an interior design quiz, I know it's not technically a calculator, but it follows the same type of
same kind of logic.
Yeah. So it's like learn your interior design style. And you could pepper that in with questions about interior design preferences and also questions about the room that they or the project they might want to run.
I love it. Create an interactive quiz for an interior designer named Shelf Help and help identify a potential customer's personal style and tastes, as well as what room or project they may want to start with, and maybe begin to identify some kind of price range. Don't make the friction too high, make it fun and interactive, and don't reveal the output until they've entered their name and email. So have the quiz, then a sign up gate, and then reveal the outcome after they signed up. All right, let's see what we got here.
Let's see it. It was cool to hear you think through how you would say that.
Ramble. That's a nice way of saying ramble.
But man, like it's so funny that like rambling is the interface now, you know? Like,
It is. It's just like
something.
it's just loose train of thought anymore.
Yeah.
And I think I've talked about it before. Like I love using voice dictation now, and so half the time my voice dictation, it's like do this, and then in the transcription, it's like actually no, never mind. Let's not do it that way. Let's do it this, and it's like self-correcting throughout.
Honestly, man, like one of my most productive times now is when I take my dogs for a walk and I just put my AirPods in and I talk back and forth with Claude or ChatGPT, depending on what I'm working on, about the thing that I'm trying to get accomplished. It's a helpful way for me. Like when I need to context switch out of some deep work that I've been on and make progress on a bunch of little things, it's a great way for me to just like talk to kick something off, then move on to the next thing, talk to kick something off, check back in on the first thing. It's really wild how it's changing my work mode.
It really is, and things that just used to be such time-consuming tasks now can effortlessly fit into your routine. Sometimes I have to remind myself of that. I still kind of forget, and I'll find myself kind of going about things the old way, and then I'm like, wait, no, I could have. I mean, even did a little things like I like being downstairs in the house and having coffee and seeing the kids before they go off to camp and things like that. But there's a few things that I want to get out of my head or get done, and realizing that I can like pop open Claude on my phone and just voice dictate it and then let it run and go back to being like present and not like go disappear to the third floor office, you know? It's pretty incredible too. Okay. So I can say objectively, this is not on brand for Liz's product, but we also gave it no reference point. So that's we're coming along here. I'm curious to see, like we gave it very loose instructions about what we wanted the quiz to accomplish. We didn't give it any kind of parameters or data set for how to accomplish identifying taste and style and budget and rooms. So I'm pretty curious to see what it came up with. And again, obviously, like as with everything, the less specific your initial prompt is, the more iteration to really get a quality result. Or you can be really explicit in your initial prompt or use Claude or something like that to help you develop a really explicit prompt. And therefore just have less iteration on the back end. Sometimes I think the iteration is kind of fun because I like seeing where it plugs in, like what answers it plugs in for the information gaps. Where I wasn't clear with it. All right, this is almost ready. While that's finishing up, I just want to plug really quickly. We had one episode that we did on how to show up in AI search. I think it's for most small business owners. I was just talking to a freelance client last week about this, and they were concerned about it. Everything's shifting from everything we knew about traditional SEO and how to show up. It's all shifting thanks to AI search results and LLM use and things like that. So we had an episode on that, and it was, I hope valuable. It seemed to be, but we haven't talked about it again. So I think it's high time. What episode are we at? Is this 29 right now? I think this is 29.
Geez, that's wild.
So, goodness gracious. Episode 30 on Friday, we're going to return to AI search and kind of extend that conversation a little bit, as well as kind of addressing things that have changed and maybe best practices that have shifted or changed. Hope that y'all join us for that one, and invite anybody that you think that may be relevant for. It's always more fun. These things live on demand, but man, I don't get to have the same conversations with everybody when it's not live. So
I think this will be a really neat one. And I think we'll probably end up with a lot of time, at least from what I'm thinking. We were just talking about this earlier today, is like how to capitalize on a YouTube as like a part of your citation engine. Like we have one of the guys we work with, Sean, is on our side at Aweber doing a lot to try and figure out, how do you rank when it comes to agentic search, generative search type of stuff. And I feel like I learn something new from him all the time. But I need to get in more and do some personal experimentation. Jesse, I feel like I learned from you on search as well.
I
really
ditto
cool.
to what you said there. And I, it's interesting because like we haven't revisited it. I think it's been 15 episodes. But as we said then, and we say often, like it's still the Wild West. Like even the search engines and the LLMs, they're figuring out how to prioritize quality information and how to formulate their responses and what sources are most popular. I think it was during Evan's interview, he educated both of us when Evan Carmichael joined that like YouTube now outranks Reddit in terms of citation source in AI search results. So like it changes fast. Sometimes seemingly overnight. So it's worth staying on top of and kind of revisiting. Probably love it, Miss J. Welcome back. I'll look forward to that talk. Nonprofit Courses asked, how about AI finding Aweber landing pages? Maybe that's a question around like, are they optimized towards that?
That is so funny that you ask that. I think Nonprofit Courses, that you're Matt, right? Matt is one of
Matt that we were just talking about. Yeah. Absolutely it is.
Matt has created some of the coolest lead magnets like this that we have seen. It really inspired a lot of this thinking. I was also just talking to Sean this morning about him making a video on how to conversationally optimize your pages for search. So that actually would probably be a really great shift episode, Jesse.
And Matt just said it.
We should definitely have Sean on to walk through that, because he's going to show, he was going to record a video for Aweber, but I'd love for him to come on the shift and just walk us through in the Aweber page builder. How does he think about talking to the builder about optimizing for search, both for search and for agents?
And I think it's interesting too, because it's we should educate around that, bring Sean on and do that. We should probably provide some like prompting instructions in terms of like best practices to follow. And I know that the team is also cognizant of and building that stuff into the logic of the builder so that it inherently knows how to optimize towards that stuff. But it's always valuable to have kind of and we could add it to the Megadoc, but a prompt that just reiterates and encourages those best practices in terms of things like writing like a human and what kinds of things it's looking for. All right, so let's try the quiz. All right, look at this. A Saturday morning at home feels best when it's calm and uncluttered, warm and layered, polished and timeless, rich and characterful. I'm going to go with calm and uncluttered. Which color story pulls you in? Soft, neutral.
Let's do some deep and moody.
Deep and moody.
That's cool, yeah.
You like deep and moody?
Aubergine.
Right, deep and moody. What's your material? Natural wood and linen, marble and brass, velvet and pattern, glass and steel.
Yeah, that's what I would go to.
Wood. Which room is quietly driving you a little
This is such
crazy?
a great way to make this question about the project spec feel natural.
Not what room do you want to start
that's
with.
So good.
It's like, which is the least relaxing to you right now? It's got to be. I'm going to go with a work/flex space. Maybe not true, but how do you like to make changes? Slowly, one piece at a time, with a clear plan. Refresh what I have all at once. Go big. Let's go big. I want my home to feel, all right, your pick, serene and grounding, gathered and personal, sharp and current, or elevated.
I'm going
and
to say sharp
impressive.
and current.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Your profile is ready to open. I matched your 6 answers. Style, personality, start here, budget lane. All right. Let's see what it gives us. Oops. Hit some weird button. Oh, it's called caps locks. All right. Here's your design. The modern editor. Clean geometry, confident contrast, nothing fussy, sleek, architectural, current. Start with the home office. You want real change done thoughtfully. Expect a balanced mix of investment pieces and clever finds with a clear plan that respects your budget. That's interesting. We could probably give it some more explicit information in terms of like setting a real budget range or something like that. You know, as any kind of service provider, you know what your services cost, so you could provide that kind of context. And then immediately an option to book a call. I'd probably make that stand out a little bit more, but that's really neat. I mean, again, that was from a wildly simple voice dictated rambling prompt. That was not exactly like a thorough clean. Again, I love doing this, and I would probably take this approach if I was really building it. I would have that rambling conversation with Claude and tell it to help build a very explicit prompt that I would then give to the builder, and I'm going to get a much more on point output. But this is, I mean, this is awesome. This is great. All right. Anything else on this topic? No. I do want to say this again, especially since we have Matt and Erica here, both shared with us like some of the things that they've been building. And Dave here. I would love it if any of y'all are willing to share some of that stuff publicly. We would love to share some of what you're building, not just the things that we're coming up with and building on a future episode, even just for a few moments. So please, reach out through the form at aweber.com/shift, or directly to Chris and I, and or drop in the chat here, and we'll reach out to you. But I would love to be able to share some of those, because I know I'm seeing some of these things. I know you are, Chris, and like I'm like, I just want to share them. But obviously want y'all to be on board with that. All right. So again, thank you all so much for being here. I hope this was informative. I hope that somebody takes this and goes, that's it. I'm gonna publish an interactive calculator for my audience that answers their number one question and captures their email today. Matt, love it. He said can do. So I think Chris, you've been in touch, so I'll let you reach out to Matt and figure that out. But we will be back on Friday. And again, we're going to be talking more about AI search, which I think is just a wildly pressing and relevant conversation. And hopefully we can be both practical and informative and help everybody get a little bit closer to standing out in the new world of AI search results. Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll see you on Friday at noon.